Larry Spinner, formerly of New York, now Boynton Beach, Florida. Well, I would occasionally watch Mad Men, and people would ask me if it was accurate, and the answer was yes and no, mostly no. Uh, I think that to me, Mad Men turned into a soap opera, and uh, it was a Hollywood version of, of Madison Avenue, in my opinion. I spent 20 years in advertising as a creative director at a major ad agency working on national and international accounts. And I watched Mad Men, and I found it not true. And it was a soap opera to me, and but many people like it and watch it, and I don't know why. But anyway, that's my personal opinion. It's one man's opinion.
Excellent.
My mother-in-law was an 81-year-old wise ass. She was a widow. Her husband probably died from exhaustion. Her name was Dottie. Dottie grew up on West End Avenue in Manhattan. She was valedictorian of her class, an accomplished musician, and she was well-read. Yeah, she was high class, but you might not know it. Dottie's shopping cart would have more than 10 items in the express checkout. When the customer behind her complained, she'd say, "Fuck off." She loved to play cards, but not everyone would play with her. She had no patience while people decided which card to throw. After a few seconds, she'd yell out, "Today, Josephine." She called male players Josephine, too. One Sunday afternoon, I was sitting in Dottie's kitchen. She was in her nightgown and slippers. Yellow papers and boxes were haphazardly sprawled all over the breakfast table. "Just getting things in order," she said. "I'm not getting any younger, you know. And okay, I'm not neat. That's what I have a daughter for." As she sorted through the papers, she looked me in the eye. She said, "What are you going to say at my funeral?" I said, "Are you dying?" "Someday, I already have one foot in the grave." I didn't know how to answer. I wanted to say, "Not me. I don't know how to do that stuff." But I simply said, "Me?" "Yes, you, big shot." "Oh, no." I said, "Shouldn't Judy do the eulogy? She's your daughter." No, she has a full-time job raising 2 kids." She has no time to write a eulogy. But you sit on your ass all day. You sit on your ass all day in your office. You have to do it, Larry. I want to hear it next week. Hurry up. I already have one foot in the grave. So over the next week, I worked on Dottie's eulogy. It was creepy. Writing about my dead mother-in-law who was still alive. But every time I worked on it, I got choked up. I never wrote a eulogy or ever heard one for my mother. My mother died when I was 10. I'd known Dottie all these years, but until I pieced together her eulogy, I didn't realize what a unique person she was. A week later, I was back in Dottie's kitchen with Judy. I had the eulogy in hand. I felt good about what I had written. "Okay, let's hear it," she said. Before I even started, she barked, "Stand up, nobody gives a eulogy sitting down." So I stood up and read. I read about her childhood, her honors, her intelligence. I was really getting into it when the phone rang. Dottie answered it. "Go fry some ice," she said, and hung up. "Sorry, Larry, some asshole salesman. Go ahead." I continued. Dottie thought positively about everyone. She saw the best in people. Dottie thought her grandchildren, Anthony and Jennifer, were wondrous, brilliant, beautiful, and exceptional human beings, the epitome of perfection. Carol and Judy, they were the very best of daughters. Her son-in-law, me, well, I had room for improvement. When I was done reading, Dottie had a broad smile. She said, "You're smart like 2 colleges." But I did like the delivery. You need more animation, more energy. You have to interpret the lines. My 81-year-old mother-in-law turned into Martin Scorsese. I was discouraged. I said, "Okay, I'll work on it, but I'm not Robert De Niro." She said, "Just be yourself, that's all. Rehearse in front of the mirror to get your gestures down." I want to hear it next week. I was about to protest when she said, "I already have 1 foot in the grave." I had no idea if I could improve my performance, but I promised Dottie I'd try. So for the next week, I worked on what Dottie called the delivery. I thought it was working. My gestures fell into place. The piece had a lot more energy. As promised, I was back at Dottie's in a week. I cleared my throat. I stood. I incorporated her stage direction and launched in. I got to the part about me. I said, "When I met Judy, she was going out with another guy, coincidentally named Larry. Dottie called him Larry number 1, and I was Larry number 2. When Judy told her mother that she and I were getting married, Dottie said, "What's wrong with Larry number 1? When I was done, it was just silence. Then my mother-in-law said softly, "I loved your body language." My wife and I looked at each other, smiling. "But people in the back of the chapel are not going to hear you." Damn it, I wanted to be good. Your voice, you have to project. My wife came to my defense. "Dottie, the funeral is not going to be at Radio City Music Hall." I calmed down my wife and with great assurance said to Dottie, I think I know what you want. It was weird. I sounded like I was auditioning for a part. I started again from the top. I put everything into it, energy, animation, projection, and I could feel it. It flowed. When I finished, Dottie shouted, "You nailed it. Love ya." When that happened, I realized how much Dottie meant to me. She'd been in my life for 15 years. She had become my mother. A year later, Dottie died. It was a beautiful funeral, a wonderful celebration of her life. After Dottie's sister Sylvia told me it was a moving, touching eulogy. She said, "If only Dottie could have heard it." Maybe I should stop now. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about Dottie and how much I loved her and what she taught me. A week ago, I was sitting in our kitchen. I was in my pajamas and slippers. Yellow papers and boxes were haphazardly sprawled all over the breakfast table. I looked Judy in the eye. I said, "What are you going to say at my funeral?" Before she could answer, I said, "I'd like you to write my eulogy, and I'd like to hear it in a week." I thank you all.